Hello everyone, my name is Melissa, and if you're interested in cross-stitch, quilting, and taking time to be creative, then you're in the right spot. Today I have a WIP Parade to share with you, and if you're new to floss tube and cross-stitch, WIP stands for Works in Progress, and I have about 15 projects to share with you today that I've been stitching on. Some I've been stitching on quite a bit lately, and some I haven't touched in quite a while, so we'll kind of talk about that as we go. I especially want to welcome those of you who have come to visit from the 911 Stitcher. She mentioned me on her floss tube a few months ago actually, and I was so excited to hear from you all in the comments, and it was so fun to see where everybody was from. I have quite a few viewers who are from New Mexico, where I live, and that was kind of neat to see that there are people that are so close by, and then some from all over the world. So welcome, and if you're a returning viewer, I'm so happy to have you here today too. I thought I'd start out today by talking about the projects that I stitched on. It was over Super Bowl weekend. I'm not sure what the dates were, but it was a stitch along that was hosted by the SYS 2023 Facebook group. I know that Jessica from Sweetwater Stitcher was one of the organizers, and the event was called SYS 6 and 6. And how it worked was, anytime during the weekend, you could spend 6 hours stitching, and you could break those 6 hours up however you wanted. You could do a few on one day, a few on another. You could do them all in one day, however it kind of fit into your schedule. That worked really well for me because I was recovering from a procedure on my heel, so I was spending a lot of time on the sofa with my foot propped up, and my family was watching the Super Bowl, and so I could kind of, that was on Sunday, so I could kind of spend some time stitching that weekend, so that worked out really well. So let's see, I will start with this. I've shown this before. It is the Woodland Sampler by Frosted Pumpkin Stitchery. It's a project I've had for quite a while. It's one of my longest or oldest, I guess, projects. And I think the last time I showed this, I was working on the September block, and I got that completed, and I've started working on the owl for October. So last year my goal was to stitch on this project and have one completed each month until I got it finished, and my hope was that I would have it finished by the end of the year, but that didn't quite work out. But I'm still chugging along on it and really enjoying the stitch. This project is, I believe it's 32 count. I'm stitching with I'm stitching with Cosmo threads, and 2/2. This is a linen, and I'm not sure, I think it is an even weave. So I've had this project long enough that the wrapper to the project is long gone, and I'm not sure. I think it could have been a Charles Craft fabric, but I'm sure it was something I purchased either at my local needlework shop or at a big box store, but it's been long enough that I don't remember. So let's see what's next. Stronger Together. So I saw the design for Stronger Together. It's a stitch along that's hosted by the Fat Quarter Shop, and it raises funds, I believe, for the United Negro College Foundation. I might be able to see it here. Let's see. I think it's UNCF. So yeah, that makes sense that that's where the proceeds go to. So you donate to that, and Fat Quarter Shop provides a free pattern to stitch along with, and this is the one from 2021. And I've had the things in my stash, you know, since then to stitch on it, and I just hadn't gotten around to it yet. Well, I saw the one for this year and just fell in love with it, and I can't wait to stitch it. But I made myself, I was like, okay, you have to pull this one out and stitch it first, and then you can move on to the next one. So that's what I did. I started on this one. It's a very modern design, which I really love. And the neat thing about the pattern for this and the quilt is it included some history on some prominent African-American people in the United States. And the one that came with this pattern was Elizabeth Hobbs Keckley. And this is a picture of her. So it's kind of neat to read the history. And there's also some sources listed for additional information. So I really like that. So here is my progress. I haven't ironed anything, but I did open up all my project bags to have ready to go. So this fabric, let's see if I can figure out what the top is. Yes, okay, I believe it's like this. Grab some paper. Find it. Okay, there you go. So this is stitched on 14 count Aqua dyed effect by Fabric Flair, and I'm using the called for DMC 2/1. And the thing I learned about this was I decided I needed to iron this before I started. And I cut the fabric to size, and evidently my iron was too hot and it scorched a piece. But luckily the fabric, the big piece of fabric, was big enough that I could just, you know, reposition and move it and try and press it from the back side. I don't know, I think this fabric is screen printed, so I don't know if it was, you know, the materials that are used to screen print are more sensitive to heat, but I know now to be really careful. So anyway, I'm moving along with this. This white stitching here is really delicate and pretty. A really fun design. So I can't wait to get that finished and then move on to this year's. So that's that one. The next one I have is a design by Stitching with the Housewives. And it's this pattern here. It's called Sunflower Seeds. And they've got a whole bunch of patterns that are like seed packets. And when I purchased this one, I actually purchased several. So I have the strawberry seeds one and the daisy seeds. So these were my favorites, and I thought I'd start with those and then move on to the others. But I believe I started this one in September last year for Sunflower September, and this is where I'm at. I'm very close to finishing this one. I believe all I have left is to fill in these little squares with black thread. So I'm very close. And this one is stitched on 14 count Chalkboard black Wichelt, and I'm using just DMC threads on these. So nice small size, easy finish. So anyway, I'm really enjoying that. And the gingham at the bottom, so cute. Love that gingham. Okay, so that was number 3. Number 4 is a hands-on design, and it's called Let's Talk Winter. And let's see, is that one in here? Yes, it is. There we go. So on this one, I have the top of the chart, Warm Winter Wishes, And then the blue that you see right down there is the snowman's hat, which is really cute. It's kind of a swirly hat. It's almost like the wind has caught it. All right, so that one's 14 count chalkboard black as well, and I'm stitching that with DMC 2/1. The next project I stitched on that weekend was, well, I didn't bring the book over, but it is out of a quilt book by Bonnie and Camille. You might be familiar with their fabrics that they design for Moda, and they have a cross stitch design in the back of the book, and it's based on the quilt pattern. So let's see. There you go. So this is stitched on, I believe, 25 count white Lugana. And I believe the last time I showed this to you, I might have just had a portion of this completed. Maybe I'd gotten a little bit of this red one done. But I know that that weekend, you know, I really focused on this. I still have a star point here to finish. So I just love the colors in this. So bright and fresh. And that's with Cosmo threads. And I think I said it was 25 count Lugana, and it's vintage cloth by Holt. So that's coming together. You know, when I first started stitching that, it was a little smaller than the 14 count that I was used to, you know, stitching easily. I'd been stitching some on the Woodland sampler, which was 32 count and a lot smaller. I'd been struggling with it because I hadn't discovered that I needed a magnifier and reading glasses. So I was still kind of getting used to that when I started stitching it, because the count was, you know, smaller spaces. And but I found it went really smooth this last time I stitched on it. So that was kind of a relief that it's like I'm getting into the groove of this. So okay, number 6 was a new start for that weekend. So all the others were, you know, whips that I had. But I started this. It's Berry Patch by Hello from Liz Mathews. And the very first time I saw this, I just fell in love with it. The strawberries and the bunny are just the cutest. So I'd had this in my stash for a little while, and then Katie, the novel stitcher, she has a floss tube that you might have seen. If you haven't, you need to go check her out because she has a great floss tube. So she announced that she was doing a stitch along, and I believe it's called, I think it's #BestBunnies Sal. And I knew I had this pattern in my stash, so I ordered the fabric for it and started it. And this is my very, very little start, just a little bit of the border. And I was very hesitant to start on the border, excuse me, because I just really wanted to jump to the strawberries and the bunny, but one thing at a time, right? Well, I'll get there. It's motivation to get through the border. I really contemplated not stitching the border. And in fact, I didn't really even recognize that it had this border on it when I chose it. I really loved the little, I want to say they're strawberry blossoms, that's what they are. And I thought about just using, you know, the blue and white for the border, but because it's kind of an uneven design, you know, it extends and there's not one on this side, I was like, well, I probably should. And it's okay that a border is, you know, understated. I will say that I learned a trick from Nicole, I can't think of her, Nicole Spohr, where she demonstrated that she would do a full X and then do half X's or half crosses when she does a border. And so every 10th one, she puts a full X so that it makes it easier to count by tens on the border. So that was a really good tip. The thing I did learn though is not to go back and finish the X's until you're all the way around, because once you do that, then you kind of lose track of how to count. So, but that I'll finish it that way around the border so that, you know, it's a lot easier to count. I had to go through with some extra needles and like be very careful and count multiple times to make sure that I have 10. And I slid in a needle and then did 10 more, slid in a needle, and kind of kept them there to make sure that I had the right amount, or the amount that I thought. And I was 2 off, so it's a good thing that I did it. I thought I had 60, but I only had 58. So I was able to go back and, you know, add a couple more stitches. So anyway, I can't wait to get to some of the fun little details. I think what I'll do is maybe stitch down one side and down the other side, and then start on some of the floral. Do a little bit of that and then go back and do the other side, just to kind of break it up a little bit and give it, you know, keep me motivated. So that was nice to start on that one. So those were the projects that I worked on for SYS 6 and 6. So, all right, I have a few more. Let's see, turn my little notebook page here. Okay, so the next one is one I showed on my very first WIP Parade, and you know, I haven't stitched on it at all. And it's called, this is the picture of it. It's a dimensions kit, and it's called 3 Bird Watchers, and I think, yep, 18 count Ivory Aida, and I'm assuming it's probably DMC floss in it, but I don't know for sure. But I used to stitch this when I would go visit my mother-in-law, and you know, I wasn't too worried about, you know, finishing it, or it was just something for, she cross-stitched a lot, and in the evening we would sit and watch TV late into the night and stitch on this. So I have really good memories of doing this. It's a really sweet design, but I got to looking at it today, I was like, you know what, that is a lot of stitching. I've only really done like this much, and there's a lot more. It's full coverage, and I got to thinking, do I really want to finish this? I have a lot of good memories about stitching it, but I've discovered that I really like moving from one motif to another. I don't know that I'm going to be really excited about stitching, you know, a lot of this kind of background. I mean, the birds would be really fun, but I don't know. This might be one that I let go. I'm going to keep it for another year and just hang on to it and see how I feel about it. I never really thought about, you know, letting it go. It sat in my little craft tote for a long time, and I don't know, I just didn't think much about it. But now I'm thinking I might be able to let that one go. So we'll see. Let's see, it's not gonna, if I let it go, it's not gonna take away my memories of sitting and stitching with my mother-in-law. In fact, I have quite a few of her pieces, and one of them is framed and has birds in it. It's beautiful. One of these days I'll show it, but it, you know, if I let that go, it's not gonna take away from that memory. So the next one I have is it's a Christmas ornament. And I've got it in this fun little cardinal bag. I think this is a Charlie Harper design, and my mom made me this bag. It's got a fun little red and white polka dots in there. So this is a oh wait, okay, I'm out of order. Oh, I've got that one in a little spot down here. So this one is actually called Winter Woods, and this one has a similar theme. It's winter, there's a bird, but it's a little smaller. So here's a picture of it, and I haven't worked on it in a really long time. The red cardinal is actually a button. So you're really just stitching the blue background and the birch trees or whatever those trees are. And then the snowflakes that you see are beads, little beads. So far I have just this much on it. Do I have some beads on there? I do have a few beads on there already. So that one's on perforated paper, and yeah, it's got buttons and beads on it. So this one is actually the ornament, and it's in a little bag that a friend from my quilt guild in Kansas City made for me. This one is a Mill Hill ornament kit, and it's called Gingerbread Cottage. It's from the Winter Holiday Collection. Lots of beads on this one. And so far I just have hanging thread. Is there a needle on the end of this thread? Oh, yep, okay. So there's the door. The beads, there's beads on the door. So this one, you know, these should be pretty easy and quick and easy to put together and stitch. So I think the beads were kind of driving me crazy. I have them in a little container like this. Back when my daughter had braces, we would buy these with wax in them. And those little beads would just roll around, and they were kind of hard to get a hold of. But since then, I've gotten a little case that has like a sticky surface on it. So I think that'll make it a lot easier to, you know, keep from rolling around. So, okay, so that was number 9. Okay, so the next one I have is one I'm considering letting go of. The library here, you have access to Creative Bug, which is an amazing website that has all these different classes. And here, the library has a subscription for anybody that would like to watch the video classes that they have. And there's so many different topics. There's cake decorating and quilting and you know, art journaling, and just so many different things. So if you're interested in, you know, creativity of any kind, check out and see. A lot of libraries carry subscriptions that you can sign up through your library if you go out to their website. And so, you know, our library has like arts and crafts events for the kids, but they have them for adults too. And for a while, every week, they were providing materials for different crafty things, macrame and knitting and I don't know what all, but one time it was cross stitch. And I want to say this was before I really kind of dove back in, and you could go in and pick out from, I think, about 3 or 4 different choices of kits. So I thought this one was really pretty. And I got started on it one weekend that I had some time to myself, and I didn't get very far. I mean, I don't even know which, yep, that's the seat, so that's the up. And I just kept getting off right in here, and I kept having to rip it out. I got so frustrated. And I think part of the problem was that there's some half stitches in there, and there's a lot of back stitching. And then I got to looking at it today when I was pulling things out, and if you look at that, the wheels are not symmetrical. The lines, like right here, are not really even. I have a feeling that while I love the flowers and the concept of this, I think that is just going to drive me crazy to stitch that. It looks like the tires are lumpy and that they have like a flat tire. So this may be one that I let go. The Aida is like super stiff in this. So I don't know that I'm going to really enjoy working on that. So I might be able to reclaim this bag. It's a 1930s print with a little kitty cat. My mom made this for me too. Cute little gingham inside. All right, that was number 10. So number 11 is a Lori Holt pattern. It's Vintage Christmas Sampler by It's So Emma, and Lori Holt is the designer. And I stitched this on 10 count even weave by Zweigart in the farmhouse color. And it's the vintage cloth by Lori Holt. So, and also I'm doing it with DMC, 4 strands of thread over 1 because it's 10 count. The holes are huge. And I have been stitching these in the car on some various trips that we've taken. And I'll talk a little bit about my experiment with WIP Go in one of the videos, probably the next video that I do. But this was called in January. It was my WIP Go project for January, one of them. So I decided I would take, I had about half of the little ornaments, the little motifs completed, and I had thought I'd space them out enough that I could cut them apart and turn them into a pillow. That was initially my my goal. So I'll show you the ones that I have completed. Here is the stocking and the candy canes. They were so fun to stitch. So the gingerbread man, I still have some little buttons to put down his front. And I think Santa gets a button somewhere, if I remember. Maybe not. The little tree definitely does. It has colorful buttons all over it. And the little mitten. Maybe the mitten has a little button on it. So I got those all cut out and got the buttons picked out so that, you know, it'd be really easy to stitch on the buttons while it was in hand. And I got to looking at them and I was like, you know what? I don't think I have enough seam allowance to really be able to make those a pillow and feel comfortable that they are not going to come unraveled because it's such a loose weave. I'm used to stitching with 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. So, gosh, let's see, 1/4 of an inch. Maybe. I don't know. I would feel a lot more comfortable with a bigger seam allowance on these. So I think what I've decided I'm going to do is to use sticky board and wrap it around the sticky board, and it'll have a really tight, really tight margin, like, right about there. But that will leave about, this much underneath. And see how one of them goes. If it doesn't work well, then I might just, I don't know. I'm going to make it work well. I'm pretty sure it'll go around some sticky board and make the most of it. But I think if I want to do pillows with the rest of them, I need to leave more space than I anticipated, like a lot more space, just so I have some room to work with it. I have seen somebody has stitched this on some Lugana that was maybe like 20 count or small, or maybe 24 count. And I don't know what color it would have been, maybe white. I just love these. And I'm tempted to stitch them again in this kind of format. So we'll see. I think I will go ahead and stitch the others on the 10 count though. It's made a great traveling project because most of the time I can stitch even if the roads are kind of bumpy, but there's definitely been some that I haven't been able to stitch at all, but it's been a good little travel project to have. Even when I get to my destination in the evenings, it's been a real simple thing that I can stitch on without worrying too much about, you know, what the light situation is like. So anyway, let's hope that's not a disaster because I don't know, I have the memory of going to some of the places. Yellowstone was one of them that I stitched some of those on. So anyway, let's hope that that turns out. Okay, number 12 is a modern folk embroidery design. And I don't know why I have not pulled this out. I keep thinking about it, but I've been working on some other things and, you know, there's only so many stitchy hours in a day. But this is the modern folk embroidery design. And I just think it's so pretty and cozy looking. And I purchased it from the Evertote website. At the time that she was offering a kit with a project bag and the hand-dyed fabric and the Roxy Flosco thread. But it was during a time when we were having a lot of shipping and mail problems. And so I just ordered the PDF and then sourced my materials more locally in the United States. So I haven't gotten very far. I only have, you know, some of the moon there. The fabric is really pretty though. Nice modeling. And the fabric is 28 count casual linen in Night Sky by Fiber on a Whim. It's really pretty. This might be one of my first hand-dyed fabrics, and it's really pretty. I can't wait to get back to this one. Okay, lucky number 13 is next, and I believe this was a start, maybe my birthday start. I did not start it on the day of my birthday. I started it maybe a week or so later. And it is the Letters to Santa stitch along. And this is one that I showed my daughter a few different Christmas designs and she picked this one out. And I think it's so pretty. So I haven't gotten very far in this one, but I do have some of the border. And this one's on 14 count chalkboard black by Wichelt. And it's Aida. So anyway, I left the little clips on there, so it's pretty, got a dent in there, so hopefully those will iron out. Using DMC threads, and they're called for. Fat Quarter Shop designed this, and it's a free, well, is it a free? It's a Fat Quarter Shop exclusive. I don't think it's a free pattern, but it's one that Fat Quarter Shop designed. I think it might have been a mystery. I can't remember, it's been long enough. But I love the colors in it. Okay, number 14 is a design by Alicia Paulson, and you might know her as Posy Gets Cozy. She's had a blog for many years, and she's on Instagram. And this is her design called the Stitchers RSVP. I just love those little motifs. And the text in it says, "Listen, I still want to be invited, but I'm not coming. So I thought that was pretty cheeky, and as an introvert, there's definitely been times where I felt like that. So I will show you this beautiful fabric that it's stitched on. I just love that color. And the fabric is 32 count linen from Wichelt, and it's in Mediterranean Sea. It came in a kit from her website, and so she provided the thread. So I'm guessing it's DMC, but I don't know for sure. So the thing that surprised me when I started stitching on it is that this text is 1/1. And oh my, that's the first time I've ever stitched 1-on-1. And I tell you, that's a challenge. I thought 32 count was, was a challenge, but 1/1. So I decided I have to stitch the 1/1. I have to stitch the words first because otherwise I don't know if I'll go back to it. So what I decided was I had made it this far, and I was like, okay, you've done, you know, a good little section. It's the bottom line on the design, the bottom line of the text. And I was like, okay, you can stitch something. So the thing closest was the little hearts coming out of the house. So I started those. I think I still have 2 more. Yeah, 2 more to do. So then I'm gonna do the next line here, and then I'll pick another like motif to work on. Maybe it'll be the house or something. And then I'll go up and I'll do this line, and then I'll probably go pick a different motif to do. What is that little brown one? Oh, it's a little crown. That's a little crown, a little teapot. And then I'll go in and do the capital L. So anyway, that's how I'm going to approach that. I will say I love the look of it. I really like it. I really like that text. So anything else I need to tell you about that? I have a couple of kits by her, and I love them. And this, maybe that one was, when did I start that one? That one may have been my birthday start. And the letters to Santa, I think maybe was my Thanksgiving start. So anyway, there's a whole bunch of times like during the holidays, there's Thanksgiving, my birthday, Christmas, New Year's, it's just one after the other. And so I justified starting a new project with some of those holidays. I did the same thing last year. Last year I wasn't stitching as much because my teaching job was very consuming, but over the holiday break, I was like, I can start some things. So okay, last one is a hands-on design, and it's a mystery stitch along. I had done the Christmas one, the cookie bake from the year before, and so when they can't have got a hanging thread, when they came out with the Halloween one, I knew I wanted to work on that. So I have really enjoyed working on it. It's been a little bit of time, but this one is stitched on 32 count Belfast linen in Silver Mist, and it's hand dyed fabrics by Stephanie. And I'm using DMC to stitch these. And if I remember right, I think I've made a few little mistakes, but when I was stitching them, I was like, it's not gonna matter. I think the little swirls here might be off a little bit, but it's okay. Not everybody's cauldron needs to swirl the same way. So anyway, that is WIP number 15. So not too bad, but you know, that's about all I want to have, because I kind of feel like it's already hard enough. Like so many of these I haven't stitched in so long. And as I'm stitching more consistently lately, I'm kind of noticing patterns. And one thing that I've been doing is keeping track. And I don't have a book of days, but I have a calendar that's kind of similar. And I'm writing down in the calendar on the day that I stitch, what project it is, how long I stitch, and where in the house I am. Because sometimes I stitch in here in my little crafty, sewy, creative space. And sometimes I stitch at our dining room table, and sometimes I stitch on the end of the sofa while, my family's watching TV. And sometimes I might stitch in the car or, wherever. I'm kind of keeping track of that because I want to see what patterns emerge, like when do I stitch, how often, because I know I'm not stitching every day. I know in January I stitched 15 days, and I'm kind of seeing if I can increase that this month, February. And I also want to kind of see where I'm maybe the most productive or where I stitch at the most. And I don't know what I'll do with all that information, but my goal is to stitch more consistently. And, maybe that means, putting certain projects in those spots so they're easy to pick up. I find that in the evening, stitching on black can be kind of tricky. Something that's more of a 14 count is a little easier, but, I also have a Halo Go light that during the day, if I use that, it's really easy for me to stitch the higher counts. And so it seems like I usually have, at least a 14 count, a 32 count, like I have some different variety, a handful. And then once I start stitching on one though, it seems like I want to stitch on it for a few days because I feel like I'm kind of building some momentum with my stitching. I know where I left off. I know what I need to do next. I usually have already threaded my needle and have it ready to go to just stitch the next part. And but I'm also trying to mix it up and have, more stitches during the month to keep it fresh and to keep some more projects going. So I don't know, I think it's kind of a balance. What I would like to do is I've been trying to build a morning routine, and I'd like to I really enjoy my day so much when I've gotten a little stitching in the morning. And it hasn't happened a ton, but I noticed that I just feel this sense of calm that I'm not worrying all day, like, am I going to have time to stitch? I just really want to spend some time doing something. So, it's hard to squeeze in some of those moments in the mornings. I'm not a morning person, but I think I would like to try and incorporate just at least 15 minutes maybe of some morning stitching, but we'll see how the year goes along. I'm kind of keeping track in that calendar, and I'll show a little bit more of that in one of my next floss tubes and kind of talk about what I'm doing there. So I'm not going to talk about quilting today, but I thought I'd mention that I have been doing some quilting with my former local quilt shop and needlework shop. I call them former because I've moved away, but I still consider them my LNS, my local quilt shop, even though I don't live there still. You build relationships with the people that, own the store. And so anyway, they've had some cross stitch alongs and they've had some quilt alongs. And so I have been doing some of those things and finished the tops of some projects. But this one in particular is up here. I had a student send me a gift certificate at the end of last year, and I bought some fabric to make a quilt because I knew that, if I made something like that and used it, I would think of her all the time. And so this pattern is called Day Hike. And let's see, do I have that pattern close by? I think I just saw it in here. Maybe not. But anyway, it's called Day Hike. And the fabric is a motif fabric, and it's by Fancy That Design House. And I can't remember the name of the line of the fabric right off the top of my head, but I plan on doing a quilting update pretty soon in March, so I can share, you know, some of these projects. And I've got all the blocks done except for two I had to like correct. I wanted to switch the fabrics, the fabric pairs. But by then I'm hoping I'll have the top finished, all sewn together, and maybe even one more. So anyway, you can look forward to that. I definitely look forward to spending some time sharing projects with you, and I hope your start to the new year has been wonderful and filled with lots of blessings. So thanks for spending some time with me today, and happy stitching, everyone. Bye.